Hey guys, how's it going? This is Daaro DS, and welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night. As the last time we left off, we had learned more about Aoko Aozaki and what really makes her tick. And we realized that we do not want to piss her off. Good tip right there. So we're going to go back. Let's go to extra just to make sure what is going on. Archive. Now this is 1.5, right? This is chapter 1. Oh, this is chapter 1. Okay. This is the 1.5. So swinging 7 days, we've already done that. It was that was a great half chapter too. That was a great half chapter. I love that chapter. So we have that, and we have the chapter 2, Lunch of Our Choice, which I believe we did read. And we're just a little bit into chapter 2, so we're going to head back again, and go to load our save file, which we are at So What? So What is where we are at, I believe, so let us continue. Sojo, are you there? Aoko called into the classroom before entering as if it was the most natural thing in the world. It was already past 12:50. Lunch would soon be drawing to a close, but class 2C was lively as ever. Though she had no business being here, she casually walked right into without waiting for a reply, and pulled up a seat next to me. As she did, the students who, until then, had been boisterous as baby birds begging for food, conspicuously fell silent and returned to their seats. What's this? What's with this response? She clicked her tongue and surveyed the room. The student she was looking for wasn't here. Since he did not really stand out that much, she thought he might be looking around the corner somewhere, out of sight. But it seemed that wasn't the case. Hey, Arisato, where's Sojiro? He should be in seat number 12. Her voice was calm and professional. Me? I think he left with His Highness a little while ago. The student called on was shocked that she knew his name. By the way, you might think that the reason the other students referred to Tsukuji Tobimaru as His Highness was because he was the board chairman's son, but it actually stemmed from his prince-like behavior. Apparently, Tobimaru himself was rather fond of the nickname. Tobimaru? He and Sojiro were getting along? She was shocked, and until the students of Class 2C were shocked that she was shocked. We actually never seen him be so friendly with another guy before. Well, there's Hosuke, but he's an idiot, so it doesn't count. That's right. His Highness treated him pretty coldly at first, but by the third day they were bickering like old friends. Just can't help but warm up to Sojiro. He might be weird, but he's a good guy. Yeah, Sojiro is great. Sojiro is great. As they regained their composure, the students once again began to murmur and chat amongst themselves. Aoko stood there listening for a bit, then abruptly turned around and left with a quick goodbye. Back in the student council room, Sojiro had just finished telling his story. He seemed rather pleased with himself. Rather pleased! Across the table, however, Tobimaru was frowning. So, what do you think? He fished for feedback. In response, Tobimaru massaged his forehead with his fingertips and made a face somewhere between anger and concentration. Hey, Soji, you're making fun of me, right? You aren't that crafty. That's mean. I'm pretty clever, you know. His clumsy retort just confirmed Tobimaru's suspicion. In which case, there was only two possible conclusions. Either what he said had really happened, or he was so exhausted that he was starting to hallucinate. Personally, Tobimaru hoped it was the latter, but... Souichirou, speaking frankly, I like you. A human that doesn't lie isn't human. That makes you a perfect match for a misanthrope like me. But if you start spouting off nonsense like that, who am I to rely on? Who am I going to rely on for lunch from now on? Really? Can't you just eat in the cafeteria? Tobimaru's scowl deepened. Fine, I'll say it clearly. What you saw was a hallucination. If you ask me, your eyes were probably playing tricks on you. But if that doesn't satisfy you, I can introduce you to a good psychiatrist. You really think so? Okay, that settles it then. Tobimaru's words might have seemed insulting, but Souichirou accepted them calmly. I figured it was something like that. Still, it's the city, and that sort of thing might actually be possible here, so I had to check. Visibly relieved, he finished off a last onigiri and neatly folded up the cloth they had been wrapped in. Hey, what are you saying? Did you really think that was normal for people in the city to do things like breathe fire, stretch out their arms like rubber? I don't know either, dude. I don't know. Well, I wouldn't say normal, but I thought it might not be anything special either. This place is full of impossible things that don't exist in the mountains. That's why I thought there might be even people like that too. The serious look on Souichirou's face made Tobimaru keenly aware of the enormous culture gap between them. Deep in the mountains with no electricity, the night had remained unchanged since ancient times. Far from the leading actors, humans there were a mere bit of players, just another part of nature. In conditions like that, it was no surprise that people like this boy would still exist. Of course, the idea of children growing up pure and untainted had a certain appeal to it. Perhaps the population there was so low that there was no need to develop civilization. Or perhaps it was simply a pristine world where access knowledge was not required. At any rate, it was a bit paradoxical. Or whatever. But it was precisely because everything about city life seemed impossible to him that he had just ended up under the impression that it was a place where anything could happen. Don't worry, there's no doubt the city's full of all sorts of shady people, but none of them are secretly wizards, I promise. You say so. Somehow I didn't seem totally convinced. Certainly there had been parts of the story that Tobimaru couldn't quite come to terms with either. True or not, the event he had described was disturbing. Anyway, for now, let's assume that everything you said really happened. That means the student from our school killed somebody in the park last night. On top of that, both the perpetrator and the victim were abnormal, to say the least. One of them must have had a flamethrower, while the other has something like a naginata, I guess. Or another long-bladed weapon. Souichirou nodded along as he listened to Tobimaru talk, hearing it from somebody else's mouth. He could see how people might think that he was pulling their leg. That's a pretty crazy story. Souichirou, come clean. Are you messing with me? No, not at all. But people like that don't exist in the city, right? In which case, it's just like you said. I must have been dreaming. Lately, balancing work and exams has been pretty tough, so... Winter break was fast approaching, and finals were only a week away. For Souichirou, they were a most fearsome adversary. Since I don't have a good foundation, I have to study twice as much as everybody else just to keep up. And you're bound to do a nervous breakdown if you do nothing but study all the time. First of all, you don't do a nervous breakdown, you have one. You don't do one, you have one. But you're right, burning a candle at both ends isn't good for you. Why don't you just cut back on work and at least before exams? I've been trying, but a lot of people have been taking year-end vacations, and they're always asking me to cover for them. He shrugged his shoulders helplessly. From the way he was talking, he'd obviously been busy. Even if he wasn't going crazy, his lack of sleep might have caused him to slip into a daydream, although, technically, it had happened in the middle of the night. Sounds like you're having a hard time, Souichirou. Souichirou. Yeah, living in the city is pretty draining. He nodded gravely. However, the fact that he didn't look even the slightest bit tired was troubling. I'm a little amazed you never complain about it. Are you the stoic type or something? Huh? It's just that worries aren't pitiful, that's all. That worries aren't painful, I'm sorry. Souichirou answered and then glanced at the wall clock. Lunch was about to end. Tobimaro, it's time. Huh? Is that late already? Go ahead and go back without me. I've still got some things to do. Souichirou stared at Tobimaro, who was making a life of the student council member sure is tough sort of gesture. He had the eyes of somebody looking at a piece of art without comprehending its value. It must be nice being able to skip class whenever you want. Isn't that the sort of negligence that you'd hate? That's a misunderstanding. Didn't I tell you already? My absences aren't negligence. They're a privilege. The vice president stood up emphatically. He seemed upset. However, the transfer student merely gazed at him, wholly unimpressed. Hey, don't tell me that you still don't understand even after I painstakingly explained it to you. Fine, sit down and listen up, Soji. Even though I was gifted with a talent and fortune far exceeding normal people and work diligently every day without resting, I'll be reduced to nothing once I graduate from this place. It's awful. I can only make use of my family status for one more crummy little year. What on earth is inevitable about that? Normally, the privilege of riding on your parents' cocktails is something that you would last for your entire life. But I only get it for 3 measly years. So it'd be a waste not to take advantage of it while I have the chance. God damn it, pisses me off. The idea of being on the same level as a bunch of morons, worrying about money. I swear I won't be able to make it in the adult world. The envy and jealousy swirling around will swallow up my fragile heart for sure. It had to have been a joke, but as far as Souichirou could tell, he was being completely serious. Thinking it must be nice to be able to say these things like that with a straight face, he simply took Tobimaro at his word. After all, if he said it himself, he must believe it. However, Oh, if you want to keep using your precious privilege so badly, then all you have to do is stay in high school, right? Just say the word and I'd be more than happy to help out. As if to blow away his spineless acquiescence. The door to the council room flew open. Cool words effortlessly shattered the warm atmosphere. With a single remark, Tsukuji Tobimaro sovereignly over the sovereignty over the room slipped away. I'll pass. Dreams are something that you should accomplish on your own, I think. I see. In that case, don't get so excited about such embarrassing things. I could hear you from all the way out in the hallway, Mr. Vice President. Speaking without an ounce of hesitation, a girl, Aozaki Aoko, entered the student council room. How her long, dark hair was slightly disheveled, probably due to the fact that she had run all the way here. She overlooked the still-seated Souichirou and stared at the vice president who had been passionately ranting until just a moment ago. Good luck, Tobimaru. He's leaving! Are you leaving? I had no idea you were so heartless. What? Tobimaru grumbled in front of Aoko. But if I don't get back to class soon, I'll be late. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. He cuts himself off there. Aoko, who until then had been focused entirely on him, briefly shifted her gaze toward Souichirou. You're not the only one with places to be, you know. I swear, it feels like I'm always having to pick up after you. It wasn't a complaint. It was simply her honest opinion. Huh? Are you saying you're here for Souichirou? Don't worry, I've got business with you too. Her eyes were shining in an almost murderous glint. It was subtly different from the sullen gaze that Tobimaru had grown so accustomed to. He didn't know why, but she seemed in an unusually bad mood today. Souichirou, which would you prefer, running or swimming? She asked abruptly. Souichirou frowned slightly and answered, either one is fine. No, you have to pick one. Then swimming, I guess. What's this all about? You still haven't signed up for any clubs. It was a tubly sucked answer. That didn't leave any room to object. You've read the school regulations, right? All students must participate in club activities without exception. Honestly, I think it's stupid, but rules are rules. That's ridiculous. I don't have time for that. I know. Another terse reply. She was always fairly merciless, of course, but Tobimaru couldn't help but think that she was trying unusually hard to avoid getting drawn into a conversation with Souichirou. The two stared at each other wordlessly. Even Tobimaru, standing on the sidelines, didn't dare to breathe. I see. Fine, so finally Souichirou broke the silence. I thought you understood, Aoko. No, you definitely do understand. Yeah, that's what's strong about you. Souichirou stood up. He passed by Aoko and casually walked to the door. So, should I start tomorrow? If you're okay with that. With a forced smile that he tried his best, he disappeared into the hallway. Watching that series of events play out before him, Tobimaru felt a profound sense of admiration for Souichirou. Judging from her behavior, Aoko was clearly trying to make him angry. However, in response to her provocation, that he had simply given her an evasive answer. At least Tobimaru had no idea what he was trying to say and left, all without any sign of losing his temper. Even Souichirou must have felt some measure of discontent, being treated like that. The fact that he didn't show it made Tobimaru feel like he had just seen a performance of the highest order. Hey, President, what did he mean by that? What's strong? He looked at Aoko, his confusion written on his face. She was glaring intently at the wall, absolutely motionless. Aoko. No response. Hey, President Aoko! Lady Aoko, hey, are you listening to me? Aozaki Aoko! Shut the hell up, and don't call me that! Her furious shout echoed through the student council room. It was a beautiful, deafening sound. Tobimaru's fervent speech, familiar, paled in comparison. You're the one to talk, he shouted back at her reflexively. Maybe his ears were still ringing, or maybe he was just the type to answer with a shout with a shout. No wonder you can't get a boyfriend. Have you finally snapped out of it? I can hear you just fine, thanks. I was ignoring you because you're annoying, and shutting you up seemed like too much trouble. Why, are you calling me a mosquito or something? Of course not. A mosquito would be easier to get along with. Jeez. Oh, and what's that supposed to mean? I mean, no matter what we say, we'll never see eye to eye. In which case, talking is meaningless, right? So it's practically the same as dating. Apparently, as far as Aoko was concerned, lovers were just people who wasted their days whispering sweet nothings into each other's ears. The real question is how much is a meaningless conversation with you worth to you, but whatever. You're being awfully harsh, don't you think? Just a little. This isn't a situation where I can afford to be courteous. What a strange thing to say. These past 2 years, I can't recall you being courteous even once. It was when you weren't around. I see. So that's it. You're still mad about what happened back then, aren't you? There was only one thing he could be talking about, namely the incident that occurred in the student council room that summer. What are you talking about? That's ancient history. You shouldn't be wasting memory on something so trivial. You've got enough brain cells as it is. They say as they talked, the bloodthirsty aura she was emitting had slowly begun to fade, and her normally sharp eyes took on a rarely seen softness. Probably Tsukiji. Tobimaru was the only person who had ever witnessed the side of her at school. Sorry, I want to forget it, really. It's just that Soji spouted some nonsense earlier that dragged it up. Shit. Now that I think about it, this is even the same room, isn't it? Despite his grumbling, he had a wistful, almost nostalgic look on his face. Aoko, on the other hand, was scowling. Wait a minute. You told him about that? Well, yeah, but up to the part where I tried to punch you for mocking my candidacy for student council president and calling me a born follower. She sighed in relief, apparently glad that he hadn't heard the end of that story. Though the reason was a mystery even to herself. That really was a great punch. I didn't even see it coming. My body just reacted instinctively. By the way, did I really say all that stuff? You did. Not only that, you took advantage of me while I was in the nurse's office and forced me to become your vice president. He had served under the very person who beat him in the election ever since. It's alright though. I was never cut out for the job for president anyway. Vice president suits me just fine. If I had won, I probably would have ended turning into my father. You always did pride yourself in not doing things halfway. Though I kind of wanted to see you totally devote yourself to the presidency, you'd have ended up in an honor student before you'd even realized what had happened. Don't even joke about that. Having one wolf in a sheep's clothing around here is more than enough. He waved his arms to shoo her away. This sort of frank and open-hearted quarreling, unsuitable for a man and woman, was more or less of daily occurrence for them. So, why did you tell him? Huh? What happened here 6 months ago? Why did you tell him? Oh, that. It was nothing really. He was saying something ridiculous about... He caught himself. Revealing Sojiro's feelings would be breaking the tacit agreement between men, even if it was all his own misunderstanding. Anyway, what was with your attitude earlier? Do you have a grudge against Soujiro or something? Please, I'm not some princess who would hold on to a grudge for more than a week. He almost chimed that she was more like a queen, but bit his tongue. He'd learned enough the last 2 years to know that it would be a bad idea. So if you don't have a grudge, then why were you trying to pick a fight with him? I mean, he's just a little weird, but he's about as nice as they come. Hey, wait, why are you acting like you just saw a termite? Don't worry about it. I was just thinking about how disgusting it was to hear those words coming out of your mouth. Well, whatever. So he's a good guy, great. That makes him a perfect person to pick a fight with. After all, if nobody else will hate him, I've got no choice but to do it myself, right? With a satisfied nod, she pulled herself together. You've got no choice? He couldn't follow her logic at all. He was used to her train of thought jumping around like this, but even so, hating Soujiro for no reason was just too cruel. Images of utterly harmless faces flashed in his mind, and he spoke without thinking. But that guy likes you. Can you really say you hate him, knowing that? Wow, you're so retarded. Tsukuji Tobimaru. It hadn't even taken him 2 minutes to break the vow of silence. Shit. No. No, forget I said anything. He snapped his mouth shut, but it was already too late. There was no taking it back. All he could do now was pray it went over well. That's fine. We all have our own likes and dislikes. But that's all they are. Even if you say he wants to get along with me, I just can't stand him. Totally unemotional. Faced with that cool response, an uncharacteristic fury ignited in Tobimaru's chest. I'm not talking about friendship or likes or dislikes. Soji, he said he's seriously in love with you. He shouted, a serious look on his face. And Aoko stared back at him blankly in an open mouth surprise. It was the expression of somebody who had dropped their wallet hours earlier, but just now realized it was missing. In a brief instant where they still couldn't believe this was happening to them, of all people. And indeed, it was only for an instant. So, she answered coldly, as if it was nothing, and it wasn't anything important. As if she was asking what on earth it had to do with her. So, are you a demon or something? Here, say it again. I'll say it again, just in case you didn't hear me the first time. He had given up on paying lip service to his unspoken promise with Soujiro, and was firing back with everything he had. Don't care. Not interested. She ruthlessly, unearnestly cut him down. He tried to come up with a fitting name for the fiend in front of him. For the sake of all the boys at school, she still bravely nursed unrequited loves, but there was nothing that even began to do them justice. I see. So that's why you told him that story. Who knew His Highness would be so considerate? You must have spilled the beans on his nasty rumors about me, right? A sinister smile crept across her face. Tobimaru repented to a god, wherever he was, for ever bringing up her love life. Considering that's you, it was a good call. I'll praise you for it. But, so, why don't you tell me everything you said, okay? He really wished that she'd stop hiding her thirst for blood behind a smile. I only mentioned it to I only mentioned your masterpiece and the incident that happened in there. She seemed satisfied by the timid answer. Good, sometimes that sort of gossip can be useful. It scares away annoying people. But it'll be troublesome if you spread it around thoughtlessly. So watch yourself from now on, okay? Her syrupy, sweet smile sent shivers down his spine, as if it had been written down, there definitely would have been a heart at the end of the sentence. Nice. Whether it was joy or anger, Aoko's speech became impossibly cute when she was gripped in the throes of a strong emotion. He filed away the new information even though he didn't even help him in his current situation. Don't worry. I value my life, so I'm done flapping my gums. Still, Aoko, do you seriously hate Soujiro? He knew full well that the topic should be avoided at all costs, yet boldly forged ahead. Occasionally, the friendship between men was more beautiful than pearls. Well, it's not like it's as simple as I don't like him or so I hate him. Honestly, I don't even understand it myself. Maybe that's the problem. She hesitated a bit before answering, probably for Tobimaru's benefit. If she gave him a proper thought instead of replying immediately, even he would have been able to complain. I see. In that case, I'm done. After all, it's a purely emotional issue. Neither of you have a rational sense of reason for the way you feel, so there's nothing I can do to help. Thinking that would be the end of it, he looked up at the ceiling and silently apologized to Soujiro. However, his final words had apparently piqued Aoko's interest. Wait a minute. What did you mean just now? Her almost cheerful tone from earlier had vanished. Tobimaru answered lightheartedly, oblivious to the change. No, it's just that Soujiro said something about not knowing the reason he likes you either. Oh, wait. Oh, what he meant was that he didn't have a reason, I think. Anyway, it was something like that. Since he didn't believe it when Soujiro said that he liked her for her looks, he simply left that part out. Didn't have a reason? Uh-huh. Even though I told him all about all the rumors about you, it was useless. He kept going on about how you're really worried about him. And that you've been such a big help. Honestly, I'm not even comfortable repeating it. All I know for sure is that unlike all the other guys, even after hearing those rumors, he didn't show the slightest indication of backing down. He finally noticed the shift in Naoko's demeanor. She was glaring at the wall like it had murdered her family. After what felt like an eternity, she spoke. Oh God, what the hell? I feel like I've heard this somewhere before. Grounded her teeth audibly, blinded by rage. It seemed that her hatred was finally boiling over. Tobimaru turned to the heavens in despair. Sorry, Soujiro. I think I got you in trouble again. I understand a little better now, but what is it I don't like about him? Tobimaru looked away as if to say, I don't want to hear it. Go bother somebody else. But she ignored him and continued in a quiet, curse-like voice. It's his attitude. It reminds me of someone I hate. Like the way everybody treats him, as if he's such a great guy. Or the way he seems strangely unsteady, I mean. Or especially the way a little thing that gets in my nerves. So in the end, it's just randomly venting her anger, huh? He idly checked the time. And naturally, it was already past 1 o'clock. I get it, you can stop now. Sorry I brought it up. So what? So what was that business you had with me, though? Just so you know, the class has already started. Huh? What do you mean, class? When did... The bell rang back when you were staring in the hole in the wall after Soichirou left. Is it really okay for you to skip 5th period, President? Girl, you... Of course it's not okay. Why didn't you say something? He shouted with pulling on Tobimaru's tie, on the verge of tears. In response, he raised his arms in mock surrender. It was the composure that only afforded to a winner. Consider this my revenge for saying that even a mosquito would be more elegant than me. I hope you've learned your lesson, demon. The next time you better think twice before you trample on a man's purity. So you're holding pretty grudges as usual, but I know that you're supposed to repay with them. You're supposed to repay the words with words, you rat. With a yank, she clenched his tie around his neck. He laughed as if her reaction was only making his victory all the sweeter. Everybody who knows you are headed for the remedial classes and classics. I don't even need to tell you what Class A's 5th period is, right? Old Lady Fujishiro is gonna hate you even more after this. Mrs. Fujishiro was one of the school's longest-serving teachers, and it should go without saying, the one in charge of classics. Come on, if you got time to yank my tie around, you'd be better off using to rush back to your classroom. Since I'm though feeling generous, I wouldn't even try to stop you. Ah, damn it! Getting jerked around by someone like you? Die already! She tightened the tie even further, mercilessly crushing his windpipe. True to her word, his life started to flash before his eyes. Hey, wait, I'm gonna croak! If you make it now, you'll leave it, you know? It's only counted as an absence if you're more than 10 minutes late. Her eyes darted to the clock. It was currently 1:07. The distance between the second-floor student council room and the third-floor classroom was short enough that she would just barely make it if she ran the entire way. You got lucky, Tobimaru. She hit him in the head with one last parting shot. The fact that he couldn't even tell he was joking or not was slightly unnerving, to say the least. Stick around a bit after school. I really do have a favor to ask you. She was already halfway to the classroom by the time the words left her mouth. Finally alone, Tobimaru closed the door, locked it, and sat back down. Jeez, it's never boring with her, that's for sure. He leaned back in the creaky folding chair and sighed. The sky outside window was bright and pleasant, but in the winter, sunlight weakened early. Wouldn't be long now before the sun's strength faded, and the heaterless student council room suddenly began to chill. Somehow, all the sensible equipment had ended up in the main student council room. There was no choice but to get used to the cold. It'd be great if this weather could last forever, though the forecast said it'd be getting cloudy again soon. After a vaguely sensitive monologue, his thoughts turned to Soichirou. Clouds or sunshine, which one suited him best? In the end, he couldn't come up with an answer. After school, Soichirou went straight to work without making any detours. Though he had properly informed the school of his jobs at the Chinese restaurant and the fishmonger in the Misaki district, there were even more that he was keeping under wraps, not just because he was worried about having too many, but because the jobs themselves were apparently less than legal. Today's workplace was a prime example. The pachinko parlor near Yashorogi Station. He changed out of his school clothes and into the shop's black tuxedo-like employee uniform, and got to work sweeping outside the building. Yashorogi was the face of Misaki City, and the area near the station was packed with commercial buildings, bustling shopping arcades. Where people gathered, so too did the things they produced. An optimist would say that it was joy and laughter. A pragmatist would say it was money and commerce. And a realist would say that it was just a lot of garbage. No matter how much the local government worked to build a cleaner yashirogi, they couldn't defy the basic rule. A rule went for double this particular kind of establishment. The very nature of the business affected all sorts of riffraff and rabble, which meant it was necessary to clean the storefront several times a day. And so Sojiro stood outside in the winter cold, whipping out the cigarette butts and picking up the discarded flyers and throwing away empty cans. Something about it must have reminded him of the life in the mountains, because he finished work cheerfully and without delay. After giving the building's perimeter once look over, just to make sure everything was in order, he went back inside where it was warm. Overwhelmed by the dazzling lights and sounds and choking on the stench of tobacco in the air, he cut through the main floor and headed toward the office. Manager, I'm done cleaning outside. Good job. Let's see. Next, you could go check out the customer at Unit 40 on the second floor. Could you go check the customer at Unit 40 on the second floor? My gut says she's cheating. Manager was a good-natured former office worker. However, the reason that he had hired Sojiro was obviously still a student. Wasn't because he was moved by the sight of a young man making his way in the world alone or anything sappy like that. It was simply because all of his other employees had intimidated faces and wanted to have at least one person on hand who was actually capable of putting people at ease. Are you sure? I still haven't cleaned the bathrooms. It's fine, it's fine. Now this lady parked herself right in the camera's blind spot, so I can't get any proof from here. Since you've had a 100% success rate since spotting this sort of thing so far, I want you to take a look and tell me what you think. Sojiro nodded and put away the cleaning equipment and started to make his way to the second floor. This place was quintessential, a two-story pachinko parlor. It was basically a community-oriented establishment, content to drain the locals of their money little by little without relying on exploitive rules or regulations. But even that, if that was the management's intention, the customers came in all shapes and sizes. Some just came to play for fun, while others were pro gamblers who lived their lives off winnings. And there were even those who claimed to make it easy money through illicit means. In particular, by using the device that had been prevalent in the mid-80s, they could access the game's machine circuitry from outside, disrupting its programming and making it incredibly easy to hit the so-called 777 jackpot. Naturally, even if the management would prefer to deny entry to such people outright, they couldn't just turn away the potential customers without hard evidence. In the service industry, innocent until proven guilty was an ironclad rule. As a result, all they could do was punish those they caught red-handed. However, Sojiro wasn't privy to any of that. All he knew was that they were dishonest cheaters and a nuisance to the management. He went upstairs. Compared to below, the racket from the cable, radio, and game machines were more subdued. There were 100 units on the first floor and over 80 on the second. Although there were empty seats here and there, it was a pretty good turnout for the evening. He walked over to the center aisle where Unit 40 was located and nonchalantly rested against the wall. True to the manager's suspicions, there was a customer slowly hitting the jackpot in fever mode. Somehow he knew that she was playing fair the instant he saw her. He still wasn't entirely clear on what made somebody a pro, but if it hadn't meant being a special, then this woman was definitely the real deal. Her look was almost palpable. Asking on the attention of the customers around her, she silently turned the handle again and again. Outwardly, she looked to be several years older than himself. Her green one-piece dress hugged her feature in all the right places, and her slim stocking-clad legs were crossed seductively. More than a gambler, she had the elegance of a model posing for a painting. Short dark hair with reddish tinge framed the pair of the stylish glasses and scarlet lips. Frankly speaking, she didn't belong here. There were already 4 large containers of balls stacked at her feet, She had showed no signs of slowing down. Looking bored, she took a drag on the long cigarette between her slender porcelain fingers. She seemed somehow familiar. The second the thought popped to his eyes beyond the glasses turned to the wall and saw him. A chill ran down his spine. He clamped his hand over his mouth to keep himself from screaming. Person from yesterday. He turned tail and fled from the stairs, driven by baseless instinct. All he could think about was getting out of this place as quickly as possible. However, no matter how he wanted to, he just couldn't leave without saying anything. At the very least, he had to check in with his boss first. Manager, I'm going home early. Don't worry. The person on the second floor is fine. Trying to desperately not panic, he crammed his school uniform in a paper bag and bolted out the front door. He dashed through the streets of Yashirogi, already thick with shadows from the night due to the cloudy weather, and headed toward the station. Shooting up the long flight of stairs like an arrow, he nimbly whipped his commuter pass from his wallet and hurried through the ticket gate. Inside, the throngs of people were standing and walking and talking. The station attendant in the booth beside the automatic ticket gates had a dour expression on his face, and vaguely turbulent tranquility filled the air. In other words, it was an ordinary day in the city. The spectacle from last night was nowhere to be seen. He finally caught his breath. A temporary sense of security brought to his feet to a halt, and he nervously turned around. Of course, there was nobody chasing him. Now that I think about it, the reason he had suddenly started running had been far too flimsy. To begin with, he hadn't even seen that person's face too well enough to know what they looked like. He slapped himself on the cheeks to pull himself together, then went downstairs to the platform. Unfortunately, the train wouldn't arrive for another 10 minutes, so he quietly found a chair and sat down. There was no point in making a scene here. He took another deep breath. The platform was crowded with people waiting for the train, just like he was. There was no sign of any sort of someone chasing him. I guess it was just my imagination. His turbid thoughts finally began to settle. But as the tension drained from his shoulders, it was replaced by a surprisingly heavy weight. I know, I'm tired. This is my body after all. He sighed as fatigue was worse than he expected. Life since coming down from the mountains had certainly been tough. But when he sat down like this and looked back on it, it hadn't been unbearable. Physically, he was fine. The problem was his mind. This place and the mountains had almost nothing in common. Recognizing the differences and adapting to them was incredibly difficult. Of course, the adapting was simple. Humans beings were that sort of creature by nature. Even without any particular effort, the process would have happened on its own. So, the hard part was probably the recognition. Why can't anything be easy? He finally gave voice to the complaints he kept bottled up for so long. Truthfully, even taking a stroll around town was still unnerving. The things that people of the city took for granted were all unknown to him. But was it any wonder that he would eventually get worn down after being astonished by every little thing time and time again? Yeah, it's not my body that's tired. That's why I saw that illusion. He muttered to himself, then shook his head. What was. That was the way of the world. No matter what Tobimaru said, he knew that what he had seen was real. Compared to the mountains, this place was magical. In which case, it wouldn't be strange if people would really use magic were living here in secret. Just thinking about it made his legs start to quiver. After a while, he recognized that it was from fear. The last time he felt this way was when he found himself face to face with a wild bear as a child. Except that this wasn't the same thing at all, was it? Back then, I merely screamed my head off. Reminiscing about this outrageous childhood trauma, he couldn't help but crack a smile. Certainly anybody would faint if a 2-meter tall bear beast lumbered out of nowhere and started roaring at them. The wild animals in the mountains were so terrifying that they made the giant monster in the movie he'd seen just a couple days ago seem like a harmless stuffed animal. If he could live through that, he surely could endure anything that the city had to throw at him. Right. So if the problem was that they had... The problem is what they said at the very end. What did they mean by get rid of him? If he took it at face value, then it was exactly what it sounded like. But the implications of that were so unsettling, it was hard to seriously consider it. Surely he had simply heard them wrong? Or perhaps they had been misspoken? The rules of the city. Somebody will come to punish me. Huh? Even though he said it himself, it seemed like somebody else's problem. He wished he'd just write it off as a dream. He sighed and closed his eyes. As his vision went black, he mentally shelved the scene from before. For now, he decided to forget what happened last night. When he opened his eyes, his breathing had settled down. So, what had happened after you tried to hit Aoko, Tobimaru? For some reason, that question suddenly sprang up in his mind. Resolving to ask about it next time, he stood up as the train arrived at the station by a stream of light. Wow, awesome. That night is the next episode, next chapter. I can't believe it. We finished chapter. This is 2? I can't believe this is chapter 2. This can't be chapter 2. What the heck? Urban stuff. Alright, so we're going to save right here on Higurashi. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, look, I said that. Nope, Witch on the Holy Night. This is episode number... episode number 6, I believe, of Witch on the Holy Night. But what did he mean? The one question that I'm really peculiar about, and it's really piquing my interest. What happened last night? Is it something that I should go back and read? Because I don't know. Maybe this next chapter will talk about it. But, as always, this is Daaro DS overwriting Tea Time, Chapter 3. Alright. Thank you all for watching. This is Daaro DS signing out. And you have a good day. Peace.